Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 15 of the Richardson Rubicon podcast, Escape to Everquest. A bit later, I've got an interview with Nate, who is a 29-year-old player who has got a great relationship with his dad, and they're both playing game, and they've been playing Everquest for absolutely donkey's years. And we just have a little bit of a chitter-chat about how great Everquest is and how good P99 is, and do some comparisons between P99, some TLPs, and live. Before I do that, though, it's customary for me to give you an update of where I am in game, and currently I'm nowhere in game. So I've been away on holiday with my family, and we've been to Barcelona for over a week, and it was lovely. I've got to say, it was absolutely amazing. And not that I want to get into politics, but honestly, the food over there was great, and it was a lot cheaper than you find in Blighty, and I'm not surprised because it's Brexit. But there we go. That's the last thing I'll mention of that. Yeah, it was a fantastic time, but the point of this is that I'm finding it a little difficult to work up the motivation to get back into game, and I'm finding it difficult to pin down the reason for that, and I think it's possibly because I'm busy at the moment. I've got a lot of things on, and also it might be because I don't know what the answer is. So I'm asking you if you've got any hints or tips, or you've been through this before and you've had a little bit of a lull in your activity. What worked for you? What made you get back into the game? What helped? So email john@richardsonsrubicon.com, or you can book a slot, fireside chat with me, and we can have a little bit of a chit chat about it and maybe come up with some ideas. So that'd be fantastic. Anyway, on with the show, and here's Nate. I'm joined today by Nate, who is a long-time player of Everquest, and he's got a different sort of perspective on the game that some might expect from a young person. Well, you're not a young person, are you? You're 29 tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah, so, that's true.
you're an adult, but you're a younger person, aren't you? So then the sort of 50, 60-year-olds that tend to have played this game for ages. So anyway, hello, Nate. I'll hand it over to you now.
Thanks. Yeah, so I've been playing for a long time. My dad got me introduced into the game when early 2000s. I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old.
Wow.
And, watched him play. He's sitting behind his shoulder, and it was great. I loved it. I wish I could play at the time, but I just don't think I understood anything really. So I just kind of watched him.
Oh, and then, that's pretty normal for most adults anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Yeah. So then I started getting into it in high school. I found the the live version on Steam, and I got into it, and live felt a little different. So I decided to move over to TLPs.
So let's go back on the live bit a little. So what felt a little bit different about that for you?
I think the biggest thing back then for me was the fact that it was so fast. You get to level 10 in the tutorial, which takes not even that long,
Yeah.
Seconds, and level 10
seems. Yeah.
Yeah. And level 10, back in P99 or back in, early 2000s was like hours and hours and hours,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it felt a little off. And then, so I decided to go to TLPs because I saw that was, a big hangout for people that were searching for that nostalgia. And so I decided to jump on those. That's when I get my dad back interested in the game.
Oh,
so
great!
We started playing together. Yeah.
So you repaid the favor, basically.
Exactly. I pulled him back in.
Yeah.
So we played on, I think, 3 different TLPs together, as they released. And we were up in raiding guilds and played together in different classes every time, and it was great. But I think we both felt there was something a little bit missing, and so we took a break for a while after one of the later TLPs. I decided to come back to P99. I sent him the link. I said, hey, this is still a thing, this version. And got back into it. And I think we both decided that this was our home from now on.
This was it. Yeah. Brilliant. So the whole thing about P99, I think, it's a marked difference between the live version, the free live version, and the TLPs still, for much of the reasons that you've mentioned. The leveling is insanely quick, isn't it, on live?
Yep.
And as I've covered before, and previous episodes with different people, they've always felt that the risk-reward ratio is a little bit off. It doesn't feel as big, So what would you say about that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is travel in terms of the game, the scale of the game, the game feeling large. Look, Live has 26 or 27 expansions at this point, maybe more. I don't keep track.
Oh, I've lost count.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Yeah. In fact, I lost interest.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when I played, and I've gone back to it more recently than just high school. I've played even just up to a few months ago, just, jump on here and there just to mess around.
Uh-huh.
And even with the game being, physically that large, it's never felt smaller to me.
Right.
I think the travel aspect is huge. The fact that you can get anywhere, just jump and Planet Knowledge, and go touch a stone and you can be across the world in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just a different game.
If I had a penny or a nickel in your parlance, every time I said that, I'd be a millionaire.
Yep, exactly.
But it's so true, though, isn't it? It's absolutely so true. Sometimes I miss it, I've got to say, because, if I'm playing it, where I'm at the moment, City of Mists, yeah? Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm currently trying to rekindle my interest at City of Mists. And, it's such a troll to get there. If I was, East Common Tunnels, for example, it's an epic journey in itself to get all the way to City of Mists and, the Emerald Jungle and stuff like that. I mean, I suppose there are different ways of getting there. Of course, I could use a gate and gate myself back and all that sort of stuff. But I love the fact also, I hate and love the fact that it's so far to travel. Is it possible to have those two thoughts in your head at once?
Oh, absolutely. I think, just like a lot of other things, the more effort you put in, the sweeter the rewards, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the level experience as well. Yeah. I mean, Feydark and Antonica, you've mentioned briefly in your notes here. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, related to the travel aspect, depending on where you are in the world, because it matters in this version, you could have a completely different leveling experience. The Feydark leveling path going from, Crushbone to Unrest to Mistmoor, and then so on, is very different than leveling up in Blackburrow and then, around that area, the Karanas, anything like that. So, travel matters. And
in what way? Is it because it's all close by in Feydark?
Yeah, so clearly Feydark has its own leveling path kind of set up for it. Uh-huh. And then, the western part of Antonica has Blackburrow and the Karanas and Highkeep and all that. And then, you got Lava Storm and what's the dungeon off of Commonlands? Oh, Befallen, that kind of stuff.
Befallen, yeah.
So clearly there are areas set up for each race really to have their own leveling path. And, travel matters so much in this version that unless you want to spend 2 hours, doing a dangerous journey to cross the world at level 1 or whatever, then you're kind of stuck with that leveling path. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I must admit, because when you read forum posts and stuff like this, and they say, yes, you must go to Mistmoor, or you must go to, Unrest, all of this sort of thing. You do find that you're missing out on Blackburrow, Befallen, all of these other places, because you literally are following the crowd, but you are making that whole massive epic journey to the other side of the world to be able to do that.
Exactly.
And
so
I do actually love that still.
Yeah, I'll talk about one of my most recent characters here. I'm playing with my dad because that's what I always do now, and we are playing like an Iron Man mode basically. So we'll accept buffs and we'll accept groups, but we won't trade items. So we have to get the items ourselves, and we're playing 2 melee barbarians.
Oh no!
So I'm a warrior and he's a rogue. So it's a tough group.
Yeah, definitely.
So we started Hallis, and we've been leveling up, obviously Blackburrow, and then the Karanas we've been killing in Highkeep, and Everfrost Peaks we did a little in Permafrost. And honestly, I don't think I've ever had a more fun time, finding your own stuff. We're not using, the tunnel, anything like that. It's really fun.
That's inventive.
Exactly.
That's really good. Yeah.
So, and decisions really matter because, we're obviously up in the corner of the map, like pretty far away from everything. So we don't want to run to miss more because that's hours of time or unrest or whatever, So
Yeah. How many characters have you started on P99? Because I get the impression that a lot of people have got billions of characters. Well, not billions of characters, but a lot of characters. So how many times have you run through the route, if you like?
how many serious characters do I have? Probably 3 or 4.
Ah, right. Serious characters there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Throwaway
everyone's got
characters
that.
about 6 times 6 times 6.
Yeah. Everyone's got that like level 5 that they're like, oh yeah, I'll get back to that guy, and you never do. Like it's just.
So that whole experience then of starting new characters and playing with your dad and, playing on P99 and the Iron Man challenge that you've given yourself. I was looking at a Reddit post, and I think you've seen it too, where there was someone called Otherwise Coast 419. I've always got to give the full name. I don't know why. Basically said, kids will never understand how hard this game was in 1999. I'm wondering if there's anything we can still relate to the 1999 thing. So one thing he says was there was no tabbing out. There was no Wikipedia map. It was Alakazam though, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Compasses were in game for a reason. What compasses were they? We didn't even know enchanters were a non-troll pick until years after launch. And I remember being generally confused when they invited an enchanter to my group because I saw them as a class who could turn into beds and make jewelry, but not as someone who would ever want to share a foxhole with. So they didn't understand what an enchanter did, is what they're saying, isn't it? So, I mean, it wasn't that bad, was it? There was Alakazam, definitely for the maps.
Yeah, and they had all the individual forms for each class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was I can't remember the names of them now, but I know. Oh, there was Magello or Magello for
Magello,
mages.
yes.
Yep. So like every class had something like that. So it wasn't like you had no information. It was just very limited,
Yeah, and it was quite rightfully being discovered along the way.
Absolutely.
I guess is what he's trying to get at then. But to see the enchanters as just a class that can turn into beds was a bit. I don't know. Seems a bit weird
they
to
get
me.
charmed pretty early. I think that was that should have been on the radar there.
Well, you would have thought, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
so,
but
I think there's a slight case of exaggeration going on here.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little.
So he also then starts to talk about the hardware. So also, let's take into account how bad the internet and hardware was back then. I used to hate zoning because there was a 75% I would crash, get a blue screen of death, have to reboot my computer, which took 15 minutes. Oh, that's old hard drives for you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Spend another 10 minutes getting connected to dial-up, another 10 minutes getting through the loading screens, only to realize I was dead and not even know where my corpse was. And then my sister would accidentally pick up the phone, I would disconnect from the internet and have to repeat the whole process. I mean...
yeah. The life of dial-up.
Yeah, that is pretty rough, isn't it?
Yeah, that is rough. Yeah.
But at least we don't have to deal with that anymore. So that's okay.
True. That's true, yeah. Yeah, no, I think, a lot of that just comes with the territory back then. I mean, at that point, it is what it is. You just have no other option, right? So...
Yeah. But also on the plus side of it, it was one of the first, if not the first, graphical, 3D graphical, dungeon type MMO type games, wasn't it? So
absolutely.
And the fact that you could see actual real player characters on the screen running past you, that was a big deal.
That was a thing, yeah.
Yeah, that was an absolute big deal.
And I mean, people back then were, even with all the issues and hardware stuff and whatever, were obsessed with it. I mean, I think a couple people died or something from like, I don't know if it was like dehydration or whatever, but like sitting at the computer too long, basically.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think I remember some stories about that actually.
Yeah. So
did they have Chinese farmers back then? Was it there?
I don't know, maybe.
So yeah, I mean, Chrono. Let's talk about Chrono for a bit.
Yes. So the monthly currency for live TLPs, live and TLPs. I think P99 has done a really good job of actively avoiding any types of pay to win or real life monetary value, anything like that. I mean, the game itself is free. It's just supported by the developers, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I think it just prevents, obviously permacamping, mobs for, money that to sell for chrono, to make real money, things like that. It prevents the boxing thing, which I know P99 is like outlawed anyway, but there's always that incentive.
Pretty good on that as well.
Yeah.
Pretty good on it as well. I mean, I get the impression that there's still one or two people still doing it because, I don't know, I think people do use VPNs. That's, and, but I think by and large, though, they do a good job of policing that. You certainly don't see six boxing going on as far as I'm aware,
absolutely
anyway.
not.
Yeah. So, and you're right as well, this chrono thing. I mean, I don't play on TLP or live or anything like that, but I wasn't even aware of chrono. So thank you very much for telling me about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the early TLPs that I played on, I can't remember what was the name of it. Agnar, maybe before that. I can't remember, honestly. But one of the early ones that I played on, I was far behind. I had joined late. My dad and I had joined late, and we were like, we'll spend $18-20, whatever it was at the time. We'll buy a chrono, and then we'll have tons of gear. And that was what we did, and it just felt so like against the spirit of the game.
Yeah,
the fact that you're buying gear basically.
Yeah, there's just no. It takes the urge away, doesn't it? Really, I suppose.
Exactly. It's like, why bother?
Do stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the funny thing is, you get the people on the TLP forums, because I do scout through those occasionally. You get them all complaining about the boxing that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, why play in an environment like that then?
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel like there's no other place to go if they want like a large population in their servers. I think they feel like they have no place to go. I mean, I really enjoy P99. I think there's plenty of people, but
I do, yeah.
But I think that a lot of them feel like, well, this is where the population is, so I just have to suck it up,
Well, that's really weird, isn't it? Because also the same thing on the forums there, you get people complain about not being able to join groups.
It's true, yeah. There's this whole thing. Just start the group, man.
Yeah. So it's bizarre. So they've got the population, they've got all these group finding and group creation tools, which we don't have on P99.
Nope.
Yeah. But even so, and they've got all these people boxing and stuff. So they've got the population, but they can't get groups, is what I'm trying to say. Why can't they see that the TLPs and the stuff that it's not being policed properly, and therefore they should play it on a server where it's policed properly? Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly, yeah. It seems so funny to me, but what do I know?
Oh, well, yeah, it just seems bizarre to me.
Yeah.
But each to their own, I guess.
Yeah.
It just seems very, very weird why they would put themselves through that and complain about it.
Yeah,
I'm probably going to get rage at this, but
Well, I mean, the thing is, there are other options. So it's not like you have to stay there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like Quorum. I'm not super. I think the game changes after Alias, so I know a lot of people are really into Quorum because that goes to Planes of Power. I think it's a different game, so I don't personally play that, but I'm sure that's a great server as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are options if people want to, not do TLPs. So.
Well, exactly. So yeah, one of these X packs that you've mentioned here.
Oh, expansions.
Right. Yeah, okay. So... Duh. Go on.
Yeah, so I just think the pacing is very different when you get to P99. Like compared to live, compared to TLPs, the pacing of the game itself is just so different. Obviously there's the leveling, the speed. That's a big one, right? But yeah. I really feel like P99 does a really good job of encouraging the journey rather than the destination.
Yeah, and that is the real point, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
I think when we have all these conversations about Everquest and the different servers and stuff like this, the theme from when I've spoken to other guests and obviously yourself, it's about the journey.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I played on 3 or 4 different TLPs. everyone's always rushing you. You got to get max level. Oh, you got to do this before we can do this content. Oh, this is releasing in like a couple weeks, so you got to.
Mm,
It always felt like a chase to me, and that's never.
work.
Yeah, exactly. And if it
Yeah.
becomes work, why bother playing? Like,
Yeah.
I have a full-time job already. I don't need another one here.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether you get the impression from my facial expressions, but don't like work.
Yeah, no. No.
I'm not going to be doing that. No.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No. Yeah, no, I just think, and then you go to live and everyone I see all the time people asking on, the real EverQuest subreddit, like the regular one. I guess people mostly use it for live, but
I got told off for spamming that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So every episode, I used to sort of make a little sort of Reddit post saying, "New episode, come here, listen to this."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And one of the moderators, the first moderator I spoke to, was absolutely fine. So yeah, we love the content. You just carry on. And then I got another moderator who basically just deleted all of my posts practically.
Oh, wow.
Right, yeah. And he's like, "We don't need every single update from your little blog."
Oh, jeez. Oh my God.
That's what they said. I just thought, oh, wow.
Well, that's
who are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
You must be a really important neckbeard. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
no.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, anyone goes on there and asks for grouping advice. Hey, I'm just starting back on live. I haven't played in 20 years. I want to get a group. What do I do? The only response people have is, "Oh, get to level 100 and then you can group with people." Like, how is that the response? That's crazy.
That is crazy.
They're like, "Oh yeah, just use your mercenary. Get to 100. Just use a tank because he kills faster." Like, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah. It's such a shame, isn't it? I mean, can you imagine being the developer of EverQuest, right? And then I'm just looking at it from their perspective for a minute. Yeah, creating all of that pre-100 content. Yeah. Only for it to be desperately ignored.
Absolutely.
I mean, how heartbreaking is that? I mean, I they paid for it and everything. I get that, but on an emotional level, that must be kind of like heartbreaking. I think nothing counts below 100.
True.
That's what they're saying.
I don't even think people do epics anymore on live.
Oh, really?
Well, why bother? The gear is so much better, further up, and you get the Defiant gear now too, which is like, it's like playing a Sky gear. It's that good, it starts dropping at level 1 and like levels with you basically.
Oh my God!
It's crazy. Yeah, you're like a superhero in live.
Okay, I'm getting convinced. Move me over.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I jumped on just a few months ago. Not even, I think just a few weeks ago. And oh yeah, you can take on redcons and not even feel it. It's crazy.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to map that into my own experience of EverQuest, and I just can't. That does sound bizarre to me.
It's so backwards.
And I would imagine there's now this huge gap, isn't there, between the number of people who can only see themselves playing P99 or a classic version of EverQuest, and the people who can now only see themselves playing, live or whatever it is to get their Uber loot.
Yep.
What a chasm between the two.
Oh, absolutely.
That just boggles my mind. It really does.
Well, and they've changed, everything else too. They've changed even I was looking the other day. They've changed lower level spells. Some of them to, oh yeah, they're shorter mana or shorter cast times. They're less mana. They're more damage. And it's just like on live. It's just crazy. Everything is so sped up. And it maybe, I'm not blaming anyone who plays, that plays on live. I'm sure it's an awesome game. It's just not the same as
You don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. I think we're absolutely panning the game at the moment. So.
Yeah. It's just not the same.
No, that doesn't sound like it's got a challenge, really.
No. it's not. I mean, look, the classic example everyone wants to use is no corpse runs, which that's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Well, no, I like the corpse runs. I've said it many times before. It's part of the thrill. It makes you stop dying.
exactly.
You just don't want to die. You don't want to mess up your group. You
Yep.
play, and people who have played on these servers have said that it makes you more careful if you're going to go on a corpse run. So it works.
Absolutely. It's like harder games today, and there's a bigger reward from playing something more difficult.
Yeah.
It feels better. It feels more rewarding.
Yeah.
So speaking of rewarding and putting in the effort,
Mm-hmm.
I just think the return on effort that you get from some of the stuff in P99 is not the same that you get on different versions.
Right.
The gear that you get, the encounters that you go through, the quests that you do. I mean, for example, and you would never do this on TLP or live. I just looked earlier. There's an erudite quest for a breastplate, and it's like level 10, but like there's no other reason to do that in any other version.
Right.
Just because it's not not very good, frankly, but it's a plate and it's early. And
and it's for an erudite.
Exactly. And yeah, there's not many plate wearing erudites because you got to be cleric or paladin.
Yeah.
So but it's so like it's just cool that it's in there and it's interesting and unique, but you would never do that on any other version.
Yeah. Yeah, because it just not worth the effort, I suppose, is what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. The bit that you told me about the epics not being done on live as well. I mean, all I've known is people wanting to do their epics.
Yeah.
That's all I've known. Yeah. And to hear you say that, people don't tend to want to bother doing them anymore, it's just wow. My mind is
exactly
blown. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure people do like the 2.0 and stuff, but not like classic epics.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I love telling this story. I was playing on TLP, and I was playing a bard. I was going for the Lambent armor because it's great armor and it's a cool experience to go through, like hunting all the different mobs and getting the Lambent stones and whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to do it with my dad. He was playing a shaman, I think, so we were doing that, and it took us a long time because the stuff's everywhere and you got to travel everywhere to get it and whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't even know, probably a week, not even, probably 3-4 days later, I was like, oh, well, we're in the plains now, so guess I have better gear. And it just felt like such a waste. Like, I put in all that effort, did all that, and it was a cool quest, and I've never done it, prior to that. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh, well, why did I bother doing this? I could have just kept leveling and gotten here anyway.
Such a shame. The contradiction of Everquest.
Exactly, it is. And it's the same thing for like, if you're into a TLP and you're in Lucklin or Plains of Power, what incentive do you have to go back and do Nagafin or Vox or there's none.
None really.
It's not the gear you have is way better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I do.
It helps, not create these pockets of like, oh, this content's like kind of dead or obsolete or whatever. When you have a smaller sample size, like people still raid, those classic raids now in P99.
Oh yeah, I would if I could actually get around to doing it. So.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I just think it's tough because it creates content that's just obsolete, and that's a shame because it is good content.
Yeah,
and it's fun and it's interesting, but it's just not done.
I don't know. Do you think the P99 people are the Luddites of the Everquest world?
I don't know what you mean by Luddites.
Oh, do you know? Oh, sorry. So basically, Luddites are the people who basically don't believe in machinery.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like Amish people.
Yeah, a bit like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know, maybe we're all just masochists and we just love, putting ourselves through torture. But
yeah, I think it probably is that.
Yeah. So. Like I said, I think it is harder and it is more effort and it obviously takes more time. I just think that the juice is worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? Like you put the effort and you get the reward.
It's the journey, definitely.
Exactly.
I think we'll summarize that as saying it's the journey. So what have you got planned for in-game at the moment then, Nate?
Well, I'm still trying to level this barbarian, this warrior here. I think I'm 22 or 21.
All right.
I'm working on the crafted armor, which is like, I don't know if you know, there's a warrior-only armor set in... It's crafted by the centaurs and the Karanas. And you got to bring
ringing
them...
the bell, but I've never played a melee class, so I don't know.
Okay. It's like the Soul Row quests for casters. It's like, you need a gem and then a drop from a monster.
Right.
And yeah, it's a warrior only set. It's pretty good. I'm working on that. I'm over in the Gorge killing Evil Eyes.
Oh, great. Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's where I'm at right now. So
Excellent.
Hopefully trying to get that guy leveled up. I would love to get that guy, like my goal. And I've never done it on any class. I would love to, or any character. I would love to get a Velius armor set, whether it's like, Thurgadin or Kale or any of those. But
yeah, it's a lot of work to get them.
Yeah. So that's the goal. We'll see.
Good. Excellent. Well, it looks like we've got plenty of time to do it. So there's,
exactly.
I don't think there's another expansion on the horizon.
I mean, I've heard, they've been talking about creating another server, merging green and blue, and then creating another server for years. But who knows if that'll ever happen?
I don't know. I see nothing apart from just scuttlebutt really about it. I haven't seen anything from them about it. So.
No, I mean, people have been speculating for years, but who knows?
I've written to them,
Oh, really?
I've written to a couple of email addresses that are related to the devs. I've not had any response back at all, so, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'd love to get one of them on if they were listening. Hi. But to do that, they've got to contact.
I meant to tell this story earlier. I saw the craziest thing the other day.
Oh, yeah.
I had jumped on I think he was like level 4. Speaking of the Erudite plate quest, it was like a level 4 Erudite Paladin or something. And
one of yours, I take it, yeah?
Yeah, one of the I don't really have
your throwaway character.
Yeah, I don't have time to jump on the main character and do stuff. So I was like, I'll spend a half hour here or whatever. Yeah. And I was in Tox Forest and the spawns were completely broken. Oh. So they had all these kobold mages, the wizards, whatever I can't remember what they're called. They were all on the Eridan side of the river, which they're only supposed to spawn on the other side at the little camps. And there were like hundreds of them. It was insane. So I sent a couple petitions. I think they fixed it, but it was insane when it was around.
Wow.
Yep. So.
Right then. So, well, thank you very much for being on the show, Nate. And
of course.
Thanks for having me on again if you want. So I think what we'll do is I've got a few people who've been on the show now, and I'm going to try and re-invite people back on.
Okay.
Just to talk about their journeys and stuff like this and anything else that comes to mind, So you'd be willing for a shilling to come on?
Absolutely. I had a great time.
Good. Right. Well, thanks very much, and we'll catch you again.
All right. Have a good one.
Are you tired of modern online games with their flashy graphics and hand-holding tutorials? Do you long for the days when adventure meant braving the perils of Norath with nothing but your wits and a rusty sword? Well, dust off your spell book, gird your loins, and prepare for a blast from the past with Project 1999's Classic Everquest. Dive into the nostalgic world of Classic Everquest, where the pixels are big, the challenges are bigger, and the loot, well, the loot is still pretty pixelated, but oh so satisfying. Join thousands of fellow adventurers in this authentic recreation of EverQuest, just as it was in 1999. No microtransactions, no hand-holding, no pay-to-win. Just pure, unadulterated nostalgia. And death. Lots of death. So what are you waiting for? Embark on the ultimate retro gaming experience where your epic quests await. Project 1999. Because sometimes the classics are just better. Visit project1999.com to start your adventure today.
Take part in the show, book yourself in, and have your say. We'd love to hear from you. Visit richardsonsrubicon.com. Thanks for listening to the show. Subscribe and follow us on social media. All links are at richardsonsrubicon.com.